Stickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Cha-cha! Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Pizza Punk. It's been a minute since we've done Pizza Punk, let alone live Pizza Punk. I'll tell you, I was just talking to someone else about possibly doing a show next week. Another live pizza coming at you, serving it hot. That's what we do. That's what we do. But I'm very excited for tonight's guest, who I've actually, I guess offhandedly kind of known for almost a decade now.
For sure.
Let's just get this out of the way real quick. I want to welcome Sharpie Riot, aka Josh Grove of riotstickers.com, to the show. Welcome to my show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh man. And look at Josh's background here. He's got an awesome collage. He's got the shades on. I mean, the dude is on point right now, really, truly. Tell me about the collage behind you. It looks like it has an interesting story. Does it?
Yeah. So, I don't know going back to when, but had a lot of Misfits posters, moved a lot of times. They got in bad shape and I didn't want to part with them, so turned it into some awesome wallpaper.
It's great. And, you hear this all the time. You have too many t-shirts, so the t-shirts start to wear out, but you still got the logo, and you repurpose them into a blanket or a quilt or a tapestry. And I think this is there's so much, it's so personal, this sort of collage thing, and it looks like you sealed that up, right? You've still sealed that with something.
I did, and I don't know if we can see it all. Let's see, but there's actually.
Oh wow! Whoa!
If you look, I'm probably not going to be good at this, but if you look like right,
I know it's
here,
so hard. It's so hard to point in the right direction.
There's like a piece of a Nosferatu.
Oh, I see him. I see the eyeball. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a few other things that weren't Misfits that made it in there.
That's cool.
Also,
I dig it, man. I dig it.
I
just want to give a quick shout out to friend of the show, James Gruesome is in the house.
Yeah, it's my brother. See, it's my brother.
He is quite the gentleman horror connoisseur. Yes. We're gonna have to get James on the show sometime. He's just so knowledgeable about horror movies. When I stayed with him and Liz at his house many years ago, and we were just we got along just fine. Hey, have you seen this one? Hey, have you seen this one? Have you seen this one? Back and forth, back and forth.
Man, he's got it all.
He has it all. He has that's a handsome collection that James has. So shout out to James. Droid Little is in the house. We have Rue Morgue saying hello. Mr. David Lee, who agrees that Nosferatu rules, much better than Dracula, even if it was a ripoff. I concur. I do like Nosferatu. It's got a complicated history that we're not going to get into right now, but I do very much like Nosferatu. Very much. It's a great film. Yeah. So first of all, let's start with how let me ask you the question. Let me ask you the question that we ask everybody on Pizza Punk. It's sort of a traditional question. I'm kind of, I'm sort of serving this to you blind. I didn't tell you about it beforehand, but maybe I'll give you a moment to think about it while I talk about something else. Is pizza punk? And if pizza is punk, why is it punk? And if pizza is not punk, why is it not punk? And your answer is subjectively correct because it's subjective. So whatever you decide, that's cool, man. That's cool. But you need to give me an answer. So if you need a minute to think about it, you can, and I'll just fill the dead air. Or if you have an answer from you right now, lay it on me.
No, I'm ready.
Okay, tell me.
Whoa, someone cool just showed up that I haven't talked to in a long time. That's awesome. Pizza isn't punk.
Oh, why?
Because too many people like it. And I'm not saying that. No, for real though. Like, because you're saying punk, not punk rock. Punk rock's a music, and punk is like a thought process. So if you think in the way of punk, it's not the status quo and pizza is. So everyone pretty much likes it. Not everyone is punk.
So it's conformity. You're saying that because of the massive conformity angle, that therefore it's not punk.
It's not because everyone likes it.
Yeah.
It's because everyone likes it though.
Right, because it's mainstream to like pizza.
Well, because it's just kind of everyone's palate is good for it, and not everyone's palate is good for being punk.
I have a joke for you. Do you want to hear it?
Sure. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Why did the hipster from Brooklyn burn his mouth when he ate his slice of pizza?
Nothing.
Because he took a bite before it was cool. Ah!
Nice.
Oh, dad joke alert. Oh no, dad jokes. Portfolio.
No, yeah, that'd be my answer. I mean, I guess if you
No, it's a good answer.
If you do something crazy with your pizza, like maybe if the sauce is on the bottom, and then there's like dough, and then maybe instead of cheese you use some other thing, then maybe that makes it punk then.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's a different thought process behind what everyone else thinks. So maybe then.
So
but outside of that, no.
So you must think that Chicago stuffed pizza, stuffed deep dish.
It's closer. Yeah, it's closer.
Because it's upside down pizza casserole nonsense. I mean, okay. No, I love that answer.
Did anyone ever answer that before?
No one's ever answered that before, and that's what I love about it, is because we get, I love answers that are out of the box. I love any answer that I haven't heard before. Rob is asking, is pineapple on pizza punk?
It's closer, but you still have crust, sauce, cheese, and then pineapple. So 3 out of the 4. And here's the thing: if you go anywhere, they're still going to have that on the menu. So
right,
it's a little further off. But yeah, not as many people like it. Feels a little wrong to some people, and that's punk.
Right.
And not because it has to be. Like, it's not like something's punk only because people don't like it. It's just generally people don't like, the average person doesn't like what's punk.
Right. I mean, it's kind of funny too. I've heard so many answers at this point. Another answer that I really liked is that cheese, sauce, and dough are like 3 chords, and that you could make any slice of pizza with the 3 chords, just the way, you know what I mean? I thought that was cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was cool. You
should put together a compilation video of the answers.
I agree. I really should. That'd should. Cool. And by the way, if you see me scratching my nose, it's because I did not. Yeah, it's because I did coke. Everybody thinks that when I scratch my nose, I do coke. So I've gotten to this habit of having to do a whole disclaimer about how I have not trimmed the hair right above my nose, right here, and it tickles your nose. You can relate to that. You have a beard, right? Doesn't that happen sometimes? It's annoying.
I trimmed mine today, though.
Yeah, I was stupid and I didn't trim it before we I wasn't thinking. Yeah. I really wasn't thinking, but that's okay. I'm just letting you know, if you see me going like this, it's not because of any booger sugar that I just did that's lying over there. I mean, what? No, sorry. Anyway, so Josh, let's talk about you, because you're the guest on the show. And just so everybody knows, Josh is the CEO, HBIC of riotstickers.com. We've been talking about riotstickers.com for since December 1st, because that's when Riot Stickers began to sponsor the Frumess channel. And I thought it would be really great to have him on here, because I personally don't know. I want to learn more about the sticker process. I want to hear about Josh's experience. Josh is a musician. I want to hear about his experience as a DIY, punky musician as well, and this, that, and the other. So I'm really glad to have him on. But just to let you guys know, this is the guy behind riotstickers.com. but let's go back. Let's go way back. Let's do a little Wayne's World. A little Wayne's World. Tell me about your first forays into music back in
Sure.
'99, right?
Yeah, 99.
Yeah.
Um, Loved punk rock music. First heard the Ramones, pretty much was the first thing. And loved the band The Sloppy Seconds, The Vindictives, a lot of those bands. So I started a band called the Welfare Babies, and we kind of did that type of thing. Sloppy Seconds, Vindictive style punk rock stuff. A lot of the bands I liked from growing up, like the local bands, same kind of sound, loved them. And hate to say it on here because I love the Misfits now, but I had heard them a little bit, prior to starting that band, and got the 95 American Psycho album, put it on, kind of listened to it and didn't like it at all. And it sat on my shelf collecting dust for a few years, and put it back in later and loved it. I don't know what changed. But anyway, started my first band in 99, singer, guitar player.
What made you want to do that?
I just, I think the inspiration was I loved music. I saw the local bands in my town that were just like some dudes I went to school with that had a band, and I'm like, that kind of inspired me to realize that I could do it too. And I feel like I had a lot of songs in my head, So that's sort of what started it, playing guitar.
Yeah.
Interestingly too, playing guitar, like back then you couldn't go on the internet and learn how to play a guitar. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Doing it now, it's way easier. But I remember my brother had a guitar, and I would just kind of play it and listen to music. And
yeah, how does that work? So you have to you listen to hear how it sounds?
I'd listen to songs, and I kind of played the guitar like it was a bass guitar. I kind of played like just one string at a time and tried to match the notes that they were changing through.
Yeah.
And then I forget what song it was, but I was listening to a song and trying to do that, just play the root note on one string. And I figured out what a power chord was, but I did it on my own. No one showed me a power chord. And I remember I had seen some chord charts where there was all this crazy finger stuff. And I was like, man, that seems really hard. And, I figured out what a power chord was, and I was like, man, if I just do this, I can go anywhere on the guitar neck and play.
What is a power chord? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's basically like a finger structure that stays the same no matter kind of where you move on the neck, where when you're playing chords on a guitar where you're kind of strumming all the strings, you kind of have to do a lot of funky stuff with this fretting hand. But a power chord, you kind of can just make a claw and just keep it like that and just move around.
Oh, I've definitely seen that. I've absolutely seen that on does Johnny Ramone do that?
Yeah, they do other stuff too, but that's the meat of everything they do. And I figured that out on my own, and I thought I broke this mysterious code to guitar playing. I'm like, I just simplified the fuck out of this. And yeah, then later I found out that a lot of the guys do it. But not only was it easy, but to me, it sounded awesome. It sounded better than this stuff where you're kind of playing these full chords, So
it's so basically, all right, and you want to know what you just did for me? You just I think you just cracked the code for me, because I don't know, I've always heard bar chords, power chords, and then you have all these different chordings, and you hear the Beatles talking about chordings and all these different chords, and God, how many friggin' things? But the way it sounds, it's just a matter of preciseness. It's how precise or how crude, and crude not necessarily meaning less sophisticated, just means simpler. How rudimentary or intricate do you want to be, instead of doing a B7 flat sharp, on the eighth note of blah blah blah. You could just
stuff I don't know about.
right. But that's interesting. Wow. Okay. So and then the other thing, here's the other question I have for you. So you're doing this, and then how do you figure out what's in tune, right? Because you have to be in tune if you're trying to play along to a song that you like. Or how does that work?
Yeah, sure. So I think like again, I kind of like played a guitar like it was a bass. So like I'd hear what the guitar player was strumming, and I would just like, and I knew a little bit about music. I had done some music like in school. My first instrument was actually a trumpet, so I knew a lot about music, the way it's written,
Yeah.
that kind of thing,
Yeah.
hearing things and trying to be able to match it. So I just kind of listen to music and tune out the vocalist and tune out the drums and kind of zero in on the tone that the guitar player was or bass player was playing and like find out where on the neck that note was, and just play that single string with that note.
That's really cool.
And I started to understand kind of the structures of the songs because, a lot of that stuff too, it's almost like, for me anyway, and I probably a lot of, especially punk rock guitar players, a lot of these songs are almost like when you're playing on the neck with power chords, they're almost like shapes. You have like X shapes and box shapes and L shapes.
Right. So you just got to
like
figure it. And that's how people who are not musically inclined per se, but want to play music, like kind of like figure out how to put it all together or how to like,
I think if you're trying to listen to songs though, and figure out what they are, like you have to have the ear. Like now,
right.
If you play me a song, I've been doing it long enough that now I can probably tell you, like, at least if it's a basic punk rock song, like I can tell you what the chords, like where the finger structures are.
Gotcha. Hold on real quick. I just want to shout out James Gruesome. Thank you so much for the support. He says babies in a trash can. I don't know what that means. I'm sure you do. Yeah. But a big tip to the hat. Thank you, James, for your support. Babies in a trash can, whatever that means, everybody.
1999 welfare baby song called Babies in the Trash Can.
The Snooch is saying,
it's pretty cool. I don't know if it aged well though.
Oh, we'll assume that we'll leave it up to the people who listen to that to decide whether they agree. You're gonna have to tell us, or maybe you tell me off air a lyric or two real quick. I just want to get to this comment. It says the Snooch says, I had the same thing with a power chord, wasn't seeing any progress doing the traditional route, and realized the tabs were to be read upside down from how the guitar strings actually were. Does that make sense to you, Josh, with what he's saying?
Yeah, it does. I think I haven't done a lot with tabs. I mostly just do things by ear, but I think tabs, it's kind of like, because if you're playing like rhythm guitar, you're kind of thinking of like the low E string first. Mm-hmm. And I think tabs, they're kind of like, if you put them in a row, it's kind of starting with the high E string. And if you're playing like punk rock rhythm guitar, you're not, man, you could take those, for a rhythm guitar player that plays punk, you could take those 3 high strings off the guitar and still do what you need to do without them.
Wow. You know what's funny? That's like that's what Jerry Only did. He had Jerry Only, later on in the Misfits, he just stopped using the top part of the strings on his bass. So what are the 4 strings on a bass? Is it E? I think he was doing EA, right? Are those the 2? What are the 2 heaviest strings on the bass?
E and A. Yep. And really that's all you need. But then you start to come into, like you can pretty much play anything with those 2 strings, but you're going to be doing a lot more moving up and down.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to, it's quicker. You can just kind of move up to the next string and kind of keep your hand from like sliding up and down the neck of the guitar by doing that,
By the way, we have Walter White from New Jersey here, and from New Zealand, I mean, not New Jersey, saying, man, I wish I could play. Hi, how's it going? How's it going, Walter White? I wish I could play too, and I can
teach you everything I know in 5 minutes. I've heard Doyle say that before. Doyle's Doyle's better than teaching everything he knows in 5 minutes, but I get what he's saying when he says that. You know what's funny though about Doyle and what they used to do for him? They used to put stickers on the back of the guitar neck, and he would just go, it was like green, red, orange, like that kind of thing, which I guess probably a really great rudimentary way of playing guitar. So sure. I don't know. So you start playing, you put the band together. What is it? How hard is it to
rally a bunch of people together and, play a band. I mean, make a band, like do a band. You got to get some guys.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed easy then. Like, I mean, I guess it depends where you're coming from, but I kind of had all these songs in my head.
Yeah.
And it was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but I had all these songs in my head and I was able to write them and I kind of knew what I wanted and I was playing guitar. I kind of wanted to sing, but at that point in time, I was like, I don't think people will like it. I'll just get someone else to sing, but I'll show them the songs. So really at that point, it was like, if you're a guitar player writing songs, you kind of need like another guy that either plays bass or plays guitar. You can just show them kind of what you're playing. But but like finding a drummer, which was a little tough, but at that age, I was like 18 years old. Like, there's a bunch of young guys like ready to play,
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got a guy that was like, found him on like Craigslist was the way to find people then to play music. And I found a drummer on Craigslist that was like, I think he said he liked Metallica, but then, but I think he also liked like Grateful Dead and stuff. And I was like, seems good enough to me. And I went over there and I was like, how about we play punk rock music? And he was all about it, So yeah, it actually, I think the older you get, the harder it is to find the people for sure. But back then it was easy. And you didn't feel like you were really trying either. It was just kind of like you met up with dudes and you played,
Yeah, you're just happy to be going out there doing it. Craigslist, that used to be when Craigslist was, for lots of artistic endeavors, it was all about Craigslist. And, it's funny that you always sort of hear about like the band, like, must be into XYZ 123.
Sure.
That kind of thing. And, trying to find people that are into the music that you are into as well. And I don't know.
And even back then, I think that was kind of a thing. Like people really would put, like what they, Misfits band or like for what I liked, it was, or whatever it was. But I almost didn't want that. Like I kind of wanted people that maybe that weren't exposed to that music and I could show it to them and be like, hey, here's kind of what I want to do, but you kind of like this. And I want you to bring that into it, at least somewhat,
Right.
And I know you and I are both Beatles fans. I'd like to talk to you about some other bands that you really like, but I see that even with them, that there was, sometimes it's not the best thing to have four guys in a band that their favorite band is the Misfits or whoever it is, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or a certain style of music, If you're going to do a horror punk band and you get a drummer that their favorite band is Grateful Dead, you might end up having a really cool sound because of that.
I could not agree more with that sentiment. And yeah, like people are going to bring different flavors if they're into different stuff. And and what's interesting about the Beatles in particular is you have these guys who they just have this, for them, it's really chemistry. Like they had this chemistry and they're willing to sort of, they were willing to sort of incorporate anything into the music they're making. They're like, okay, let's put some string choruses. Let's use the sitar. Oh, we're really into India right now. Let's use the sitar. Oh, what's this? A mellotron? So it's like they're not even doing traditional rock and roll. They've like expanded into what is known as whatever you want, 60s pop music or like the pinnacle of pop music at that time, So it's like, it's good to have like a collective taste and not just do, you can think outside of the box in that way,
Yeah, absolutely. And I just saw Robbie put about Mark playing drums with him.
Mark's a Beatles fan.
I don't know Alex that well, but I do know Mark a little bit. And I mean, Mark loves punk rock music, but I think the other stuff that Mark likes is maybe not the stuff that Robbie likes. And that's awesome for them to sit down together and make music, and for Robbie to be pulling his influences from here and Mark to be pulling from over here.
Right.
You do get a new sound. In fact, I was talking to someone right before I came on the show, a band that I print for, and they saw that Facebook post about me being on here, and they were like, I didn't know you played with the Independents. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, people just kind of know me as like the merch guy now, you know, because it's been a
Right.
while since I played. But, you know, we were kind of talking about that, like, you know, just different sounds that bands have, you know.
By the way, David Lee's here. I'm probably gonna I might get flack from this, from those listening in, because generally we talk about punk rock on this show, but I actually do like the Grateful Dead as well. I enjoy Grateful Dead as much as I enjoy the Beat. Well, maybe I enjoy the Beatles a little bit more, but I do appreciate. I do have an appreciation for the Grateful Dead. Although the irony is, I don't like the live Grateful Dead music that everybody likes. I like the studio Grateful Dead because the songs are shorter, and that's the punk rock Ramones, you know, mentality of like, I can't sit here for 32 minutes listening to a jam. Like,
I like one of their songs, and it's whatever one. I can't even think of what it is right now, but I remember when I was young that they had like MTV hit and all that stuff.
Touch of Grey. You like Touch of Grey. I will get by. Yeah,
yes,
for the Skeletons.
But
yeah.
I think because I like the video more than anything. But it is a good song.
It's a great video, you know? And it's a great song.
And there's songs that definitely that I can, you know, whenever I hear them, there's these songs that are like weird genres that I normally wouldn't like at all. And you kind of hear the song and you're like, that song's good to the extent of it's above a genre. You know, like that
right,
song,
it transcends the genre that you may not necessarily listen to, but you're like,
yeah,
a good song is a good song. So this transcends the genre that I'm not generally down with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I respect like that. I feel like that with that song a little bit. Like I'm like, that's a really good song. Like it's pretty simple, but it's a good song. You know?
Yeah.
So even though I normally wouldn't listen to them, like I hear that song and I'm like, oh, that's a really good, well-written song. It's got a hook. It's, you know.
Hey, a good song is a good song, man. At the end of the day, right? Like a good song is a good song, and you can't deny. I mean, you know, I used to be, you know, when I was a teenager, I was like, no, like, you know, I'm only into this genre, this genre. Oh, it's not in that genre. Fuck this. But like, you know, as you get older, I think you just sort of like are like, a good song is a good song. It doesn't matter if I hear a good rap song that really just sort of just, you know, is good, is catchy, infectious on some level, then it's a good song, even if I'm not generally listening to rap. And the same thing with country, you know, or whatever, or, you know, like techno. I don't like techno at all. But if I hear, I don't know, like on the Train Spotting soundtrack, the song that ends in the movie, God, I don't know the name of it, but it's a techno, I guess you'd call it a techno dance song or something. I love that song. It's way too long. It's like 7-minute song. That's too long for a song. I don't like songs that long, but that's
Speaking of length of songs, I've officially decided that we need to, unless your bridge is good, cancel it.
What do you mean? Oh, the bridge to the song. If it's not a good bridge, just cut it out.
Yeah, because everyone's like, I got to put a bridge in. And when I listen to songs, I'm like, all right, this part's good, this part's good. And then the bridge happens, and I'm like, that part's not as good as these other parts. But it's like, and I do get it. I mean, I wrote music for a long time. Like, you're like, I got to put a bridge in here to break up from like kind of doing these 2 or 3 things
right,
back to back to back to back to back.
Right.
But then you're putting in this part of the song that you're like, but this isn't as good as the rest of it. So I'm saying now, let's cancel the bridge unless you have a good one.
Yeah, I can dig that. You know, it's funny, going back to the Beatles for a minute. The Beatles always tried to put like a bridge, or as they would call a middle 8 into their
and when I listen to their stuff, when they get to that spot, a lot of times I'm like, just don't do it.
Interesting.
Leave it out. But from the songwriting perspective and recording music and stuff, I 100% get why you feel like you need to.
I guess you know what it is. It's like it's the desire, or maybe it's the fear that someone won't appreciate the repetitiveness of what you're doing, and a desire to have some sort of dynamic contrast that goes against the grain of what you're doing musically right before that. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think people don't want you to think that like it's too simple. So I think that's a big part. I will say the one nice thing about it, and maybe this is partly why it's there. That guy just said Caleb's guitar teacher.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I taught this kid how to play guitar, and now he has like a band, and he's like 23 years old or something.
That's funny.
And he does awesome. But yeah, like when he was like 7, I started teaching him guitar. It was fun. But yeah, I will say the one good thing about a bridge is it makes you appreciate the other part that's really good, because you know, after you listen to this part you didn't like as much, then the good part seems better hook. Than it did before.
The hook.
So maybe that's why it's there. Yeah, maybe that's why it's there. To make you appreciate the good part.
Robbie says, I never dove deep into the Beatles. Now I've been obsessed with the track Don't Let Me Down since the documentary on Disney. Look, you got to just dive into all of Let It Be, because here again, and I won't be repetitive because we've already heard this on the Beatles. If you want to go listen to all that, listen to the deep dives on the Beatles. I'll just say this.
I do want to. Well, go ahead.
The Let It Be Beatles is like Beatles after they've reached Sgt. Pepper Heights, and then they're trying to go back to being 1964 Beatles, like with simpler live songs, and Let It Be is the result of that, and that's why those songs are so incredibly awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Josh. What were you going to say?
With the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
So I hear so many people be like, well, I don't, like, they were just lucky that they kind of hit when they did. Like, that's kind of the big argument. Like, they were just kind of at the right place at the right time, and like those songs aren't really that great, and they're simple and like that kind of thing. And then you certainly don't need to like it. But the one thing I think that you have to think about, and I compare it to like athletes are a good example too. Like, people will be like, if like Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky played in their sport now, they wouldn't be good, right? they'd be an average player, because they kind of like, yeah, I mean, I guess to some extent, like they'll be like, oh, like these other guys that came later are better because they can do this, and this different, right? But the one thing you have to think about with that stuff, with music, athletes, all that stuff, those people that did it, they kind of like do what works then because they know it works. So like my point is, if those 4 Beatles guys played now, they wouldn't be writing those songs that they wrote back then. It would be like something completely different that did work now. Like they can like get through all the garbage and they were able to write hits. So like when you listen to it now, even in 1990, and you listen to the Beatles and it was that old, like you could kind of listen to it and be like, well, I don't know what's special about that. But they kind of did their thing that worked for like in their time. I don't know if that makes sense, but my point is, like, if you can look at like those athletes' careers and compare them to the guys now and be like, well, they'd only be average players. But if those guys played now, they would do something completely different because they like saw past everything and saw how to kind of like beat everyone else. So they would have done a completely different thing.
I think one thing I think for sure is at least a part of what you're speaking about. I think that because the Beatles were in Beatlemania, that they basically, it was a chain reaction that almost everything that they did was universally like praised and accepted because they were the Beatles. They had created a standard for music at that time where it's like, oh my God, this is a new Beatles song and it's going to be great because it's the Beatles and we love the Beatles. However, I will also state this. The Beatles did something that no band has ever done since and probably won't ever do. You have to remember something. The Beatles did everything that they did in 7 years. Their first album was done, Please Please Me, in 1963. The Let It Be Let It Be came out in May of 1970. That's 7 years. Think about bands that don't even put out albums in between 7 years, let alone going from NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys and slowly turning into like Nirvana or like Radiohead or whatever you want to call it, like in a period of 7 years. And mind you, not only are they putting out 2 albums every year, but their manager has said, okay, not only do we want you to put out 2 albums every year, we want you to do a single every quarter, and that single can't be on the album. So they're doing a single every quarter. They're putting out 2 LPs. Oh, by the way, they're also shooting a film and touring the world and doing TV appearances. They did that for 2 years, 64 and 65. They had 4 LPs, 8 singles, 2 films, and world tours. I mean, it's unparalleled. They get done releasing the White Album, the friggin' White Album, 32 songs, that whole thing. And then a month later, they're back in the studio writing brand new songs for this Let It Be project. So it's kind of like, it really, that's where I think that's where like I go, okay, there's something that's different in the water here than say it just being the time period, because there's never been a precedent of that kind of prolific output that of that quality. You know what I'm saying? So it's and I think that's why people love, in the same way that we love talking about the Misfits on this channel, people love to talk about the Beatles because the story is so fascinating.
Well, I mean, look what the Misfits did in that amount of time too. But I will say, like,
right. True.
Again, like just even with me doing music, you know, I kind of like in the time, it didn't seem like a big deal, but I look back at what I did, and you know, I was going through like musician changes and stuff like that, and I look back at it and see how much music I cranked out in a short period of time. You know, if I think about my entire life and then think about the short span where I created a lot of music,
where you were prolific. Yeah.
And so when you're doing that, like just looking back on it, it didn't seem like a lot of work. Like they were just there. And I do think that kind of everyone has almost like a predetermined set limit of how many songs they have in them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so the ones that, you know, put out one good album, they're the songwriters that had 10 good songs.
Yeah, they had 10 songs and that's it. Sex Pistols, right?
And then when they put out their next album, it's like they already used their 10 songs that they have in them. Like just whatever it is inside of them, they had 10 songs. And they put out those 10 songs and then they have to put out another album. So they just try to rewrite those same 10 songs. You have other musicians that have 30 songs in them, you know.
There's a lot of truth to what you're saying in that. For sure. That is something that is very profoundly true. I think you absolutely have these bands and they kind of do the same thing because that's all they have, and then they have to keep replicating that success, which is again speaks oceans about who the Beatles were and what the Beatles were trying to do and what they were pushing for. And then the other amazing thing that you can compare and contrast is look at Paul McCartney's solo career of 50 years of a solo career, put out way more songs than they ever did with the Beatles, just solo. And how many of those songs even compare to the brilliance of the Beatles? So that's interesting too.
I think though, how many of those, that's what I'm kind of saying. And I think that's what kind of happens to a lot of songwriters. So McCartney's been putting out music for 50 years on his own. How many of those songs are like rewrites of the idea of an old song? And it happens, and there's completely nothing wrong with that. Like, and I can even look at the flip side of that. I kind of remember, like, I had an idea for a song, like when I was younger, and I would try to make it happen. Like whatever it was in my head that I kind of just had this vision of this is how this song is, and I'd write something, and maybe I wasn't there, like technically, so I couldn't put together like what was in my head. And it kind of came out like 50% of what my vision was. And then 5 years later, in a roundabout way, I kind of wrote the same song, but like I hit my vision better.
Right.
And so it's a different song.
Yeah, you took the same sort of idea.
It comes from the same place. It comes from the same place. So
yeah.
How many of these McCartney songs now, and again, not taking anything away from him, it's amazing.
Oh,
but like, how many songs does he put out now that he's like, this is the same place I took Eleanor Rigby from?
Paul McCartney is in like a stratosphere above all of us in a way that like I can't even comprehend the genius of Paul McCartney, even with all the bad solo songs that he's written. However, I would say out of those 50 years of a solo, of solo output, maybe he could fill two of those 20 something albums with, if you were to like go across all the albums and all the songs, you probably could fill two or three records with just solid, like cream of the crop out of say 20. So it's like a very small percentage, I think, maybe 10% of his output. And it was like that with all the other Beatles too. I mean, George Harrison peaked with All Things Must Pass. I think John Lennon, he had Imagine, but Plastic Ono Band is just like killer all the way through. That's an immaculate record. Even Ringo was the first of the four to have a number one hit after the Beatles broke up. Most people don't know that. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Someone asked how many songs I had in me. I think probably like 15.
15, okay.
I would say I had 15, and then stuff that I wrote by myself that a band recorded and stuff, I would say, there was probably like 40. So if you do the math on that, that means that over half of my songs were the second time. There was a second time that same song came out, maybe in a different way.
You took a second bite of that apple.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like they turned out better. And sometimes, I kind of felt like it didn't make it to where it could have been, or whatever it would be, or the first try at that vision was better than the second one. Even though I was a better musician when I did it that second time. Sometimes you do nail it that first time, and that's like, that's these bands that you hear their first song, like one of the first songs they ever put out, and you're like, well, that's their best song ever. Like, how can that be? They put out a song in the first 2 or 3 years they were playing, and then 10 years later, you're still like, well, that song's their best song. They got lucky and nailed it, even though they weren't as good of a musician yet.
What was it like? You talking about like lineup changes. So what's it like when you're in a band and it's like somebody's not working out, somebody washes out, you got to replace that guy, changes the dynamic, changes the chemistry, changes all sorts of stuff. Tell me about that. Is that frustrating? Like, just tell me a little bit about that and dealing with that.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like, maybe at the beginning it's almost kind of fun to bring someone new in.
Okay.
But it does get old quick. And, when you're doing like a local smaller band, and it just seems like every time you kind of like get it to where you think it's good, like someone goes, and usually because, well, I mean, either the person that goes kind of everyone wanted them out because they weren't pulling their weight, or it's someone that kind of came in that also wanted to like maybe be more creative, and that band's already established. So they're like, well, I can't really be creative here, so I'll just go do my own thing. So yeah, it's constantly coming and going. And I mean, I think that's one of the main things. I mean, I stopped playing, I still play with the Independents, but in 2015, I stopped like writing and recording under my own band in 2015. And that was kind of the big thing. It was just like, that gets old. It gets frustrating. It gets hard. And at some point, you're just not willing to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
Teaching someone new all the songs.
Okay. That explains it. So what you're saying, it's like you get to a place where it just get the upkeep of having everything where it needs to be in order to even do the thing becomes just not, or not something that you want to spend your energy, allocate that energy doing that. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to put this on the shelf and focus on other things.
Or, I mean, you
it's about right.
Just fall in love with something else and you go to that, and that's what happened to me. I played music for a long time, and that was the thing I loved to do. And I started Riot Stickers, and I love that, and, that became more important to me just as a person, to do that. And I going to Riot Stickers, the thing that made me start all of it was, I was the 18-year-old musician that was like, and things were different back then, but it's still the same in a way. I was taking like artwork to a place and being like, hey, I want to make a CD of this. Like, here's the artwork I have. And they would say, all right, well, it'll be $350 for your 50 CDs, but your artwork's not right. So we're going to charge you $300 more to make it right. And I would just be like, well, I can't do that, you know? And it was such a barrier to me that I was like, I need to figure out how I can make like, because I was making the artwork and it looked good, like to me, but then they'd be like, well, if we print this, it will look bad, you know? And I didn't understand that. So it's like, well, first I need to understand why that's a fact. And it turns out that they're not lying. That's true. Like, you know, you can make artwork on your computer screen that looks great, and then you can take it to a printer and they'll be like, this is going to look horrible.
Right. You need to have the right template, the right
it kind of wasn't made right. But I remember them being like, you know, we're going to have to charge you or like and a lot of money to fix it. And then it was just expensive too. And I kind of was like, man, if I could figure out how to like overcome these obstacles, I could make things a lot easier for everything I want to do with my band.
Right.
And that's kind of what drove me to start doing all this. So it kind of started with just like the artwork aspect of it.
So it was a necessity. So Riot Stickers is really born out of a necessity of being a musician, dealing with a manufacturing process that's frustrating and isn't really practical for the independent DIY sort of musician. And so, you know, if you're out there and you are an independent practical DIY musician, you might share some of the same values of riotstickers.com and why they are here and what is the mission? Is there a mission statement for riotstickers.com? Like what's it about? What are you doing?
I don't have one, but yeah, like I'm saying, that's kind of what got me down this path, like the frustration of it being so hard and people like not being helpful or being super expensive, you know. And I just was like, I'm going to figure this out. And at that time it was just for me. I was like, I'll figure this out so I can do it for myself so that I can eliminate all this crap, you know? And in the end, I did figure it out. And once I did, I was like, man, I have like all these friends that are having the same struggles, and I'll do it for them. You know, like again, like if someone brings me artwork that's junk that can't be printed, if I can fix it, if we can fix it, we will, and we won't charge. Now, sometimes it's kind of like not fixable, you know, it's
right.
To the extent where not like, it's kind of like but if I can fix it, like these other places would be like, well, I'll fix it, but it will cost $300 extra. No, like we don't do that. Like you have
morals, you have moral fiber, you have integrity. That's the word. You have
integrity. and I understand where all those dudes are coming from, because again, I played in a band. None of it was. Anything I ever did was not about trying to make any money. In fact, it was spending money. It was spending money to do this thing that I really wanted to do, that I loved.
Right.
And when someone's then, you know, raking you over the coals for extra money for this thing that you're trying to do because you love it, that's hard. That's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. And so that was the whole thing. And that's why I still, you know, I mean, I'll print for anyone that wants me to, but I want to print for like bands, you know,
right?
Like, that's who I love. I know where those guys are at. Like,
you care, you legitimately care.
I do. And I can see and feel their passion for what they're doing, you know. And I was there at one point in time, and I still love that stuff. But
why is it important? Explain. I mean, obviously we know why it's important, but this is kind of a dumb question, but like, why is it important? Like, why do you need all this shit? What do you need the stickers for? What is why are stickers so important? Why is a banner so important? Why are t-shirts so important?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of twofold. I mean, one of them obviously is there's no better. It'd be so hard for me to think about all the times that I may have gone to see a band that I might not have even heard, and I just saw something of their. In fact, going back to like, you know, the old days when you went to the CD store, record store, and you just kind of flip through the stuff and be like, oh, this cover looks cool. I think this music might be cool. Maybe it's not, but I'm going to buy it anyway and check it out. And people still do that online, but you know, that's still true. You know, if you put your stuff out there and people be like, that looks like what I like, That goes a long way. Or just even whatever the band name is, they kind of see it later, and somewhere in the back of their mind, they remember they saw it somewhere at some point,
Right.
And I've seen bands play before too that I thought were good, and then I leave and go home, and I'll be like, I don't even know what that band was called,
Right.
So I can't even look. Even now, with all the technology we have, I can't go look them up. I mean, I'm sure I could really find out who played at that venue that night, but you do want people to remember your name, But then, so there's that part of it, but then also the bands like it. If you have a band and if you have like stickers and shirts and banner, all that makes you feel good,
Oh yeah.
And so, when I had a band, I remember if we got stickers or shirts made, we were just excited to have that, again, a lot of that playing music, it's like stuff that makes you feel good. So adding that merch into it, it makes you feel good.
I would say,
and that's an easy answer, really.
I would say also there's an element of it's a way to sort of connect with the audience you're trying to cultivate / build. It's like, it's like someone sees your band play. Oh, it's really cool. I want to give you this thing here. It's a sticker. I want to give you this sticker that you can use to represent something that is our banner that you love, that represents the music that you love. And by the way, it's almost 51 minutes. I'm so sorry. We actually have to take a sponsor break real quick.
I'm okay with that.
We have to take a sponsor break. We're talking about stickers and the importance of stickers. And I got to tell you, Josh and we've teamed up to do a special promotion right here. You can only get it through this channel. You can only get it with this promo. It's coming up on the little ticker tape right now. See it? Riotstickers.com.
Outside of here on the Frumess channel, the biggest discount you can get from Riot Stickers anywhere else is 10%. And this is
10%.
50.
This is 50% off with the code Frumess, FRUMESS. You're going to get 50 3-inch by 3-inch vinyl stickers. Now, can you explain 3 inches by 3 inches? That's good real estate, right? Like if you're trying to print something up.
I mean, I would say that's like a pretty standard for a band sticker. Like that's kind of what you want to do. I think once you start to get bigger than that, it kind of doesn't fit in with everything else so nicely.
Okay. Okay.
And then anything smaller than that, you might as
too small.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're doing, but a lot of times anything smaller than that starts to be outside of, it's not going to stand out. So 3x3 is a pretty good standard. It's if someone says, what size should I get? That's kind of the go-to.
And 50 stickers, you can take those 50 stickers, you go into New York City, you go to all the places where people are just slapping stickers, and you slap your own sticker right there so that you can be represented. You know what that is? That's eyeball. Those are eyeball highways. They're high traffic. They're high traffic highways for people's eyeballs. They're coming off the subway. They're looking around. They see that thing. Oh, and then, again, now I'm scrolling on Facebook and I see that flyer, that digital flyer with that same logo that I saw on the subway. Oh, and they're playing, and I should go check them out.
I'll travel around the country and I'll go to a city I've never been to before, and I'm walking around and I'll see one of my stickers that I printed for someone.
That feels good, right?
It's awesome. I take a picture. I'll send it to the customer and be like, I saw your sticker.
Yeah. I mean, that's great.
It's super cool.
Just so you know, the promo that we're talking about, you got to go into the description. So below the little scrolly thing, there's a special link. You click on that link, you enter in the promo code, and you get 50% off. It's normally $59, and it's only $29.50 for 50 3-inch by 3-inch vinyl stickers. Tell me about the process, Josh. What is it? How do you get those stickers? How do you print those stickers up? It's it comes in a roll, and then you do a little printy print. What is it? What goes on with that?
Yeah, so basically, it all starts with the artwork. If someone sends us artwork that's not good, we'll fix it if we can.
That's awesome.
No extra charge. We'll fix it.
Wow.
If it's something that's kind of not fixable, we'll talk to you and be like, hey, let's try to figure out something else that will work.
Right.
But yeah, then after that, basically we have wide format printers that, depending on the size of the sticker, we'll be printing 10, 15 of the stickers in a line, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then we have the printers that we use. It has like a custom die cut on it, or if we're doing squares, we kind of do a little bit different of a process. But yeah, I mean, we print them out on really super high quality, large format printers, and we get them out pretty quick. Like, we'll have stickers to you in a week, pretty much, maybe even faster.
That's a really nice turnaround time. You know what you're demonstrating for me right now? It's the human commerce. It's the human sort of element that we are neglecting in this digital age with, Amazon and all this and that. It's like, you're talking about like caring about the client, i.e.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go to our website, the number on there is 919-645-7064. Like, it rings this cell phone.
There you go.
And if I'm not like in the middle of a loud printing environment, I will pick up this phone and you won't talk to anyone else but me, because anyone else that works at Riot Stickers, they don't answer the phone, because it's that phone number on the website is my personal cell phone number.
That's great.
And if
great.
And if I can't answer, leave a message or email me, and you can even email me and be like, "Hey, I don't want to do email. Can we talk?" And I'll call you back.
That's great.
I talk to people every day that want to do stuff, and no one else in the printing industry will talk to them on the phone. But I will.
There you go. And
I'll talk to you. Can tell me about your band too.
You have leading competitors. There are other competitors. You buy the stickers and the stickers don't stick. You hear these horror stories.
I do.
You buy a roll of stickers and they don't stick. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I've purchased. Listen, the way I met Josh and I met. So Josh and I met about 10, 11 years ago. I did put in an order for stickers, and I was very happy with my stickers, man. They were great stickers. I think I did t-shirts too. And
I keep, that's another thing.
Yeah.
You order from me, and then 2 years later you're like, I don't have my artwork anymore, but I want that. Like, I keep it all. Like, I have yours, I'm sure. I'm trying to look, actually. Yeah, there it is.
In the file.
Video business. I have your artwork still from 20, when you first ordered with me, 2012.
2012 is when I first ordered from, and then we had met. We didn't discuss this at the beginning, so we had met. I'm supposed to play the video, but I'll do that in a second. We had met in at Ghouls Night Out. Well, maybe we had met before. We might have met in. Were you at the Rock Shop or?
Yeah, I booked there for years. I was the booking agent for the Rock Shop for a good amount of years.
Okay, so maybe. We might have.
I did a lot of booking too.
No, but on that tour is when I met you. So I wasn't sure if I met you at Ghouls Night Out 10, which was in 2012 at Dingbats, or because you did that interview. You talked on camera for the thing.
Right.
Or if I had met you earlier on that tour. I don't remember. It's quite possible. But in any case, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
If you guys played there on that tour, I certainly, at that point in time, I would have been the booking person there.
So then
I would have been there. In fact, I probably played, I would assume.
Oh, you know what? You were.
If Blitzkid played, I played. I'm sure.
You were with.
I put my band on the bill.
Yeah, you played with Liz in Misfits, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so
man,
I'm
like the worst historian of my own stuff there ever is. That's the only downside of it all.
That's how you got to keep diaries, journals.
I know,
that thing,
dude.
Right?
Mike Hideous is one of my heroes for that. Like, you can tell him, like, he's done way more than I've ever had.
Yeah,
and you'll be like, oh, this thing, and he'll be like, oh yeah, that was like August 9th.
Oh, he remembers all the dates and stuff. He had a sharp memory when he was on the show.
Yeah, and Willie B from the Independents is that way too. He'll be like,
oh yeah,
he'll be like, yeah, we played that venue in 2001. And before we played the show, we ate at, and he'll name some restaurant, and he'll be like, and I had this food, and I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? That's crazy. But he remembers it all.
That's crazy.
But Hideous is that way too. I love him.
I'm gonna play your video real quick. Hold on, guys.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too, posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on
Stickers.com. Write stickers with
It's
a
a
bomb.
amazing song, right?
Yeah, it's so infectious and catchy. I love it. Josh was like, "Hey, I got this video," and I was like, "All right, let me hear it." And I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. 60 seconds. Pop it right on, pop it right off. It's really good." Let me ask you this. So, okay, I'm trying to think. We're sort of jumping all over the place here. So, when did you tell me about the Villians and what that's like your? I mean, that was your main band.
Yeah, that
was your
the
main project.
Yeah,
right?
so like from 1999 to 2002, I did this band called the Welfare Babies, and we were kind of like, I don't even know, like I'm like Sloppy Seconds, like just it was like fun punk rock type stuff, but a little bit maybe like vulgar-ish lyrically with some stuff, but like fun, kind of fun stuff, And then, like I was telling you before, I listened to Misfits, and I liked the old stuff a lot,
right?
Even at that point. But I started listening to the '95 Misfits, and something at that like around, a few years later, kind of hit me, and I was like, man, maybe I like this. I want to like do something a little bit more like this. So I started the band The Villians, and we were a horror punk band, and but a lot of that like. I like the Mighty Mighty Bosstones a lot too. I love the New York Dolls. In fact, you love the New York Dolls, right?
Love the New York Dolls,
yeah.
Of course.
And this is a band I wanted to ask about. Do you love River City Rebels?
The name, it sounds very familiar. I am not familiar with the music.
You have to go listen to it, especially an album called Hate to Be Loved.
Send it to me. Send me the title.
It's like one of my top 5 probably.
Wow.
It's so hard to say, but off the cuff, it's one of my top 5 favorite albums ever.
Send me that title. I'll check it out on Spotify for sure.
Love it.
Cool.
Amazing songs. But anyway, a lot of those bands kind of came along with me too. But, the Misfits were a focal point of what I kind of wanted to do next musically. I loved it. So I did it. I did a band, The Villians. We were active from 2002 to 2014, and then like we stopped in 2014 kind of, and then in 2015 we kind of did like one last reunion show, I think we put out like 3 albums, and then recorded like half of another album that kind of never really got put out. I think I put it all on YouTube, like all the like studio versions, but kind of like demo mixed versions of it. I think all that's on YouTube now.
Let's listen real quick. I've actually never listened to your band, so I'm going to listen to it for the first time right now. Let's listen. Let's just hear a song by the Villians. This is called The Wicked. We're going to play this for you live.
James loves this one. James Gruesome loves this song.
So then let's dedicate. This is dedicated to James Gruesome.
It is, yep.
Shout out to James Gruesome. This song is for you, buddy. Ready? We are playing it real quick. I think. Oh. No, we're not. Hold on.
That's the right picture.
That is the right picture.
It's really funny because if you go listen to any Villian songs on YouTube, they all just have this still picture.
That's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's the right one. All right, I'm going to press play right now. So you know what I hear in that song? I absolutely hear someone said, Jody Ramone said, oh no, the Snooch said sounds a little bit like Blitzkid. I definitely hear a little Blitzkid in there. I absolutely hear some Misfits 95, a little bit of Misfits 95 for sure. And I also hear like a tinge of Mr. Monster, I think, just like a smidge.
Love Mr. Monster was another one that definitely, when I started the Villians, Mr. Monster was they hadn't been playing very long. I don't know when they started.
They started in 98, but I really don't think they started like, I feel like their real active period just through osmosis and
probably
knowing Joe. I was going to say 2000 to 2002, right? Something like that. You know, that's when they put out Over Your Dead Body.
I have an awesome Mr. Monster story. So I don't know this, but my assumption would be they were playing in New Jersey. And again, like the internet was there, but sucked really bad. And you could like download some songs from Napster. And there was a few sites that had, bands that you could look at on there. And I lived in North Carolina at the time.
Yeah.
And I found them and I had like one song of theirs. I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, this is amazing.
MP3.com or something.
Yeah, or Napster or whatever, you know. And I reached out to them and I'm like, hey, like come to North Carolina and play. And it turned out that first Ghouls Night Out was in North Carolina. So they actually came to where I was living in Fayetteville and played what I think was probably their first show out of either New Jersey or New York.
Wow.
They came and played at this skate park with my band, and then the next night or 2 nights later or something, and played that first Ghouls Night Out. But anyway, the funny story about it was, it was amazing. But so we get to the venue, and there's kind of like it's a skate park, right? Yeah. There's like a area for the skateboarders, and then in front of it, there's kind of like a stage and a crowd area. And we get there, and like I lived right next to the venue, the skate park, and they get there and help them bring their stuff in and stuff. And then there was like a green room for bands, and we went in there, and here, like after the punk rock shows were over, they'd have like these like hip hop nights at the skate park too. And it was like some weird thing where it was like, you'd pay like $40 or $50 to come in, but then it was like drink all you want. And they just had like the alcohol there. So Carlos Loki, I don't think he was playing with Mr. Monster at the time, but he was with them. And so him and I went into this like band room that they gave us, that they were like, you guys can hang out in here. And he's like looking around, and he's like, hey, there's like cases of like liquor under these seats over here. And he's like, can we drink that? And I'm like, no, that's for like, they do this like all you can drink alcohol hip hop thing after the punk rock shows are over.
Right.
He's like, well, hey, there's no one here. And me and him just like cleared it out. Like, I'll never drink with him again. And that was in 2001, I think. I'll never drink with him again because we drank so much because I was at least trying to stay with him. And we plowed through so much of it. And then like the next day, the guy that
Loki's quite prolific from what I understand from the
guy that owned the skate park was like, what happened to all my alcohol? And I'm like, I don't know. But yeah,
that's too funny, man. That's what I was talking about, by the way, for next Monday, tentatively, not nothing set in stone, that Loki is going to come on the show next Monday. We're going to try and do another round of Ask Dr. Loki.
You should. And I'm not saying like people certainly know who he is and know what he's done.
Oh yeah.
And they respect it, and it's amazing. But that dude does not get the credit for what he's done. Absolutely not. That guy makes a lot of wheels turn. He makes a lot of wheels turn. More than anyone knows. Than anyone knows. Man, me and him started like at that when I booked that show, him and I kind of started talking and stuff. And I remember I wish I still had this shit, man. He would send me, the band Graves was on tour then. Right, because he toured. He was the tech or he was the guitar or something. I think he did a lot of it, but his like guitar tech. But he started writing these songs, right? And kind of giving them Michael, and then they start, and then he
Right,
kind of
Gotham
started
Road.
saying, and that turned into Gotham Road. But man, he would send me these like early demos of that shit, and the album stuff for that was really good, but those demos were like fucking amazing.
Isn't that how it always is though with demos? Like
For me, yeah.
no,
for
but
sure.
it goes back to what you're saying about like the first thing that you hear is the thing that like you always love. It. I feel like it's the same way with demos. When I was interviewing a lot of people and talking about Blitzkid, all the Blitzkid's fans at that point were always like, "Yeah, we like the early stuff," and I was like, "The early stuff's like it just sounds terrible. It just doesn't sound. What is that? What does that say?"
Someone asked if I was wearing a Ween shirt. I assume
Oh,
they're
yeah.
talking about me.
Dagger Love, yeah, Dagger
So I
Love's
want to let them
asking.
know it's
Yeah.
a Sunday Morning Saints shirt, which was another punk rock band I did.
There you go. You printed that shirt?
I did.
There you go. Look
And
at
it's,
it, guys.
it's probably about 10 years old, too, and I wear
Look
it
at that.
a
Look at
lot.
the colors. They don't run. They stay bright and red. No,
Yeah.
the I listen to that early Blitzkid. I'm like, oh my god. And then I hear the later Blitzkid. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love how they've really progressed in the studio. But the people are very attached to those early Blitzkid recordings, and it's just this. I feel like that's just the way it is, man. You get attached to the thing that you first hear that makes you sort of like fall in with the thing. And by the way, Rue Morg up here, he says I think he was referring to your band sounding like Face to Face, by the way, as well. So
Interesting.
You got that.
I've heard
You got
some
that
weird
comparison.
stuff for sure. And
So-
I was talking to someone earlier today too that was, that's in a horror punk band, and they were kind of like, I'm doing a horror punk band, like what can I do to like fit into that? And that was one thing, like I felt like the band I did never quite fit in because like one of my favorite vocalists, it's kind of weird, but I love Danzig. I love a lot of these other guys, but I always liked Dickie Barrett from the Bostons. I thought he sounded awesome.
I like his voice.
And I don't have that voice naturally, but I always liked the way he sounded. So there was always like a part of me that had that in there that I wanted. But I remember like when we were doing a horror punk band, I think that was one of the things we heard a lot. It was kind of like, well, you don't really fit that mold completely.
Oh,
And
interesting.
And so the person
How did that make you feel?
Even back then, I kind of liked it. I was like, well, I'm happy that you don't think that, because that's not like I like that band a lot, and that's like sort of what I want to do. But I don't want someone to think like, well, you sound like that,
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there. I mean, there's a ton of them, but just I know someone that listens and comes on here a lot, like Robbie. He doesn't give a fuck about trying to sound like
No, he
Glenn
doesn't.
or any of that shit. He likes those bands. But then, like, he writes and sings his own
music
stuff.
is not horror punk at all. He came up in that scene, but his music.
Well, he
isn't
loves
horror
it,
punk.
so it's there 100%.
Yeah, I mean, well, that stuff that was his formative years were those bands and that stuff, and that's why I think he's got what he does now is way sort of beyond all that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He's just sort of outside, but he'll never get rid of that name Robbie Bloodshed for a million reasons, and it would be ridiculous for him to do that.
He shouldn't.
Yeah, of course, but he's not. I mean, like that moniker it's a moniker. It's like not, he's. I think if he were striking out now with the music that he has now, he wouldn't be calling himself Robbie Bloodshed. He'd probably call himself something different. But everybody knows him as Robbie Bloodshed. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
To change.
But I think
the
what I'm shooting at though is like, a lot of times a band does like I felt that way then. I was like, well, we don't fit with all these other bands that are saying they're a horror punk band. But even then I was like, well, good. I don't want to do that,
Right.
But I think there's a lot of bands now that do strive for that. And my message to them is don't. Like keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Don't fit in. Don't fit in. Be completely your own sort of animal, and that's the most important element. We were talking about horror punk, and it's kind of interesting. Two things are interesting. First of all, you play with the Independents, and you started right when I met you, right around the time I met you is when you kind of started playing for them, right? So did that formulate at that Ghouls Night Out, or was that because they were also there for Ghouls Night Out as well?
No, I knew those guys for years because when I started the Villians, we were like, I started that band in like Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Bloomsburg area of Pennsylvania, and
Okay.
and I ended up moving to North Carolina, which that's where I lived when I had been in the military, and I went back down there and I kind of like reformed the band with new people.
Okay.
But so
Gotcha.
once I came there with the band, like we were playing like North and South Carolina a lot, and the Independents are from South Carolina, so we were doing a lot. I was like putting them on a lot of the shows we were doing because I loved them. They were
Oh, they're
amazing,
great. The
you know.
Independents are awesome, dude.
And the first thing I ever heard of them was the Mother cover on
Yeah,
that
they do a
whatever that
ska
comp was.
Mother. They do a
Yeah,
ska cover of Mother. It's so funny,
yeah,
man.
and it's amazing. Whenever I first heard that, I was like, "This band's amazing." And you know, again, this was back like internet days where you could get a little bit of stuff, but not a lot. But I heard the CD with their Mother cover on it, and I was like, "That's amazing." And so I went and like seeked them out more to hear their other stuff, and I was like, "This is awesome." So anyway, a lot of the shows I was booking, I was like, "Hey, can you guys headline this show that I want to do, you know, in North Carolina or whatever?" And so
Right.
we ended up doing a lot of shows with them. And so, you know, I started to get to know those guys a little bit, and eventually they ended up like needing someone to do some bass guitar for them. And
Right, because here's the thing: the nucleus of the band, going all the way back to 1992 when they first started, has always been Evil Presley, the vocalist, and Willie B, the guitarist, and they've always
Mhm.
sort of, I think it was more stable in the 90s, but then there was a period of time where they just kind of, they had, they'd always recruit a drummer and a bass player to sort of come in. As a matter of fact, on that Ghouls Night Out, they had some guys. And one of the guys, it was hilarious. They did Rock and Roll Cooking with Sal B, and they were getting Sal B really, really drunk with Patron Silver. It was hilarious. Evil kept making Sal drink Patron, and he was just getting drunker and drunker as the show was going on. Those guys are vegetarians, so we had portobello burgers for them. But what was so funny was the bass player that they had at that time, he kind of like he kind of looked like Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. He had like and he didn't like it. He didn't like that people were calling him Billy Joe. It was really funny.
I don't
And he
even
had
know
like the
who that would
greens.
have been.
I don't know who he was, man. He just was, but he had such a like a bitter face on his face because I guess like he was getting ragged on for looking like Billy Joe Armstrong or something with his green, because Billy Joe Armstrong had like a
I
green
know who it
streak in
is
his
now,
hair.
actually. It's this guy named Cody.
Cody, yeah, he was not
Yeah.
happy that people were calling him Billy Joe, but I thought it was kind of funny because it kind of looked like Billy Joe, but he was kind of there, and then I guess they kind of stabilized quite a bit by put it they put you in on bass and you just been sort of there for some years now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I did a lot. I've done a lot. There's Cody. Cody will still play with him sometimes too.
Oh, he will. Oh, he still slides in there as well.
Yeah, he still slides in there. He's awesome.
Nice.
He's amazing.
Does he
Man,
doesn't have the green? Does he still have the green streak in his hair? Or has he got rid of that?
no, I don't think he has that anymore.
James.
He's a good guitar player, but he's an amazing bass player too.
Oh, is he a good bass player? That's
Oh,
awesome.
he's a dude, man. Like anyone, go if you're a bass player, go listen to Independence bass stuff. It's hard. It's hard.
Not easy. Not easy to do. Once
No,
again,
I mean,
a big thank you
I had
to
to go to
James
work for sure.
just to get it down.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Hard.
Just another big shout out to James Gruesome. Thank you for the support. And he says that the Villians played his wedding. So he is married to Liz Gruesome, a very talented artist who did the poster art for my first feature film. I hired her because I loved what she had done with Ghouls Night Out, and I knew that when I needed a movie poster, I was gonna call her up. And she was like, "I don't really do movie poster stuff." I was like, "Look, I really want to hire you. I think you're really great." And she crushed it. I'm in love
She's
with that art.
amazing.
Incredible artist. Incredible
She
artist.
is amazing.
She
James
is.
is amazing. They're both amazing people.
Yes,
Like,
they both are. I agree.
they are
Very hospitable.
super
Very.
cool people.
I wish they lived closer because I feel like we would hang out a lot more. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know that. Cody still plays with the Independents. That's great. That's great. From time to time, we'll slide in there.
Yeah, well,
But here's what's interesting about the Independents is that they go way back. They go back to '92, and so when you kind of think about the roots of this genre / scene, because Joe Vasa, he's like, oh well, or if I do the Joe voice, I always try to imitate Joe's voice when he's not around, like I can do a really deep gravelly voice. Joe will say that horror punk is not a genre, it's a scene, meaning that it's like a collection of people. They all play various styles of music. There isn't a set. There is like that set cookie cutter trying to sound like Danzig, wearing the grease paint, going whoa 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 template, but that it's a lot more sort of varied and eclectic. And it really begins even before the Misfits, the '95 Misfits, which came back. The '95 Misfits come back, and then all of those other bands kind of pop up in around '97, '98. You have you have Blitzkid comes out, you have the Crypt Keeper 5, you have Mr. Monster, Zombina and the Skeletons. That's when they start. All these bands pop up. I'm sure James can name about 100 more. Green Goblin Project, all these bands. But the Independents started a few years earlier. They
92,
were,
I believe.
92. And they were managed by Joey Ramone, who loved the Independents and was a champion of the Independents. Sorry, go ahead.
I can't share a lot of those stories. I do know them, but I'm not the person that can put them out.
Right.
The person that can put them out can put them out if they want.
Right.
But I've heard some awesome stories, and yeah, he loved them. He loved that band. It was like, you got to think of someone like Joey, the amount of stuff that he got from people.
Right.
That made music, that were like, listen to my band, listen to my band, listen to my band. And they didn't even do that. He just heard them, and he loved that band, And
it's interesting too.
Which says a lot.
You'll always see this picture. People always circulate this picture. They claim that, this is Christ the Conqueror. And you'll see Jerry and Doyle, and you see this guy in the middle. They go, oh, that guy must be the lead singer of Christ the Conqueror. It's like, no, that's Evil Presley in the late 80s, man. Like, wearing the Sam Haines shirt, hanging out with Jerry and Doyle.
Yep.
And he was somewhat like, I don't know the details. As you said, only Evil could fill us in on those details precisely, but there was something about him possibly either trying out for the '95 Misfits, or maybe even maybe singing for them or something along the lines that just wasn't in the cards, didn't work out. There's something with those guys.
I mean, people can ask Evil about it.
Right. He's the only one who knows the story, but
other people know the story, but it's not their story.
Right.
Yeah.
So
send him a message about it. Ask him.
I really should. I haven't spoken to Evil or Willie in a while. It's been a while. But what's interesting about them is that they kind of predate all those other bands.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have all those other bands, they pop up right after the Misfits. You have the new Misfits come out, and that just sort of inspires all these bands. And there have been several waves of this sort of horror punk, whatever you want to call it, genre that have just sort of popped up in the United States. And it's got its own little vibrant, sort of community, that comes and goes in various waves. But then there was that Ghouls Night Out Festival. Can you explain a little bit what exactly was the Ghouls Night Out Festival?
Yeah, so I know the first one Matt Pathetic did. I didn't really know much about that, but it was the reason that brought Mr. Monster down to the North Carolina area. And I think they actually did. James is saying they did it in South Carolina.
Right. Right.
In 2001, which would have been, they played in Fayetteville, and then they went and did that.
Right.
So I wasn't part of that one, but then years later, Matt Pathetic wanted to come back with it. And You know, I was certainly a part of that in the aspect of helping him, you know, get some bands on there, any connections that I might have had. Because again, I did a lot of booking too. I didn't just play in bands. I did a lot of booking. I booked the first ever Gotham Road show. Like I talked to Carlos Loki a lot over the years.
Right.
When, especially at the time when Gotham Road was kind of like becoming a thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So him and I booked the first Gotham Road show in New York City, and we got to open for him. It was awesome.
That is awesome.
But so anyway, I helped Matt get some of the bands on that we're on. I mean, he certainly did a lot of it, but I helped do a lot of the promotion for it, all the printing and stuff like that.
That was Ghouls Night X? That was a 2012 one?
Man, I'm a horrible historian. I think that's what it was.
The one at Dingbats.
Yes, that was
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that one I had a lot to do with, which was actually the one that had the whole, like, people could buy the video and that never happened and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have a lot to do with that part of it.
Neither did I.
I did play at it, and I did help do a lot of planning for it.
Right.
And aside from that, I mean, an amazing night. Like,
oh, that was a wonder. That was a really, and I never went back. That was my only Ghouls Night Out experience, but I thought it was the perfect one. You know, it was Blitzkid's final U.S. show, which I shot. You had Mr. Monster play. You had Crypt Keeper 5 were excellent. I mean, it was just
Crypt Keeper 5. I used to book them in North Carolina all the time.
Phenomenal band.
And no one down there had really heard. I mean, except for like, you know, the Gruesomes and me and like these other like, which is another band that like how did, I mean, I understand if you look at their original stuff, like how did they get lumped into being a horror punk band? I can't tell you. But they are, and that's
the genre, that's the scene part of it. Like the Crypt Keeper 5 is part of the scene,
and it's fine with me that they're part of that group because when I used to bring them to North Carolina, I would promote them, and I didn't feel bad doing it. I promoted them as the greatest rock and roll band in the world.
Wow!
Because I believed that, and I didn't feel bad putting that out there.
I'll tell you
you know what?
Days album.
When you promote something, as crazy as that statement, but you believe it as the promoter, people care and they come. And that like there were 10 of us there that knew who that band was, and we brought them down there and we would pack the house. And then when they came back, it packed the house because nothing to do with it, any of us. They already sold it because they were the best. They were one of the best bands that came in there.
That's right.
That band's amazing.
They
amazing. I can't even describe how good that band is. When
I was, again, to the film that I was doing back in 2014, I asked them, I said, I want you to cover I Put a Spell on You by Screamin' Jay Hawkins. And they demoed it for me, and I put it into the movie, and I put it in the trailer, and then I couldn't get the rights that I wanted for it, so I ended up using a different song. But they eventually did record a proper version and released it many, many years later. But hearing Johnny sing that song, I mean, just unbelievable set of pipes. Just,
it's crazy.
And the way they record their albums is so meticulous and so, I mean, just really puts so much effort, takes everything so seriously, as you should. But that Darker Days album, that's the album that I really connect with. I mean, every single song, I love that friggin' album. I mean, just top to friggin' bottom, that album is just Darker Days. You can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with any of those tracks. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, the music is written so well. His voice is amazing.
Oh,
And like you just said, the production that they put in the studio and the creative
production,
and just going back to like Beatles stuff where they like to think of those creative aspects to add to the production of a song that just no one else would think about. They put in, you're like, this just makes the song. They do all that. They're
masters of the studio. They've mastered the studio space. And, what's funny too is that like, they are what I like to affect. I say this with affection. They obviously have a following. They have fans, but the CK5, Crypt Keeper 5, they are a band's band. What does that mean? it means that they are, and you see bands like this all the time. You know who's a great example of this? I don't know if you know who Fishbone is. Fishbone is a band's band where obviously they have their own following, they do their own thing, but they never broke it. They never broke out and busted big like, say, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who were their contemporaries, by the way. But every band that knows who Fishbone is, they like respect and revere Fishbone, and that's the way it is with the Crypt Keeper 5. It's like all the bands that are contemporary to Crypt Keeper 5, they all respect and revere the shit out of Crypt Keeper 5. So you're like, oh, this is my favorite band. They're into the Crypt Keeper 5. I'm also into the Crypt Keeper 5 because I love this band. I like what they're all about. So kind of got that vibe going on as well, which is a cool vibe to have. It's like the this is our secret band kind of vibe, which is nice.
It is. It'd be better for them though.
It's not as good for them because, you know, you don't want to be, if you're in a band, you don't want to be a secret. But if you're a fan, then isn't that what it's all about? This is my secret favorite band, you know.
But let's not kid ourselves though. A lot of people love them, and they do have a good following.
Oh, they have a wonderful following. They
should be way more well known than
they should. They should,
even though they're super well known.
They should just be out on the road. I mean, they can't, but they should be out on the road, just like going from town to town, you know, on a tour circuit, a well-worn tour circuit. And I believe that, you know, perhaps if like, you know, if their whatever their situations are were different, that's exactly what it would be. And James Gruesome, he says it right here, that cover of Holiday Road is really, really great. I know.
Yeah, and he also mentioned that one of their songs was in the movie I made.
Oh, you also had in your film, you also did had a CK5 song as well.
I did.
Which
Desperate
one did
Man
you use?
and the Deadweight. Desperate Man and the
Okay,
Deadweight.
that's from Darker Days, and that's a great fucking song. I have not watched your film yet, by the way. You could see Josh. Josh has I will. I definitely will. I have it opened on 2 tabs. I have part 1 and part 2 open. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and give it my full attention. But you did make a feature-length film as well, and that's cool that you have the CK5 in it.
I did, and the guy that I made it with was on here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but I know he tuned in. But yeah, like I was working, but I was doing my band, and I was in college, and this is a whole other thing that we could go into another time, but did you ever hear of It Came from Trafalgar? Do you know what that is?
No.
Rob's still here. He's the guy that helped me, that him and I made the movie together.
What is it?
It Came from Trafalgar?
Yeah.
It's an awesome killer movie that isn't done yet, but hopefully it will be one day, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, so you're
No. I did not make the movie. I'm in the movie for probably maybe 2 seconds, or I might get cut out. But
okay,
I'm very good friends with the guy that's making the movie.
Oh,
just
nice.
go look it up. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I will look it up.
I don't know how to spell that. You're gonna have to send me that title too.
It Came from Trafalgar.
Trafalgar. I don't know.
And the movie maker is named Solomon Mortimer.
Okay.
And if you ever watched horror movies, which I know you certainly have.
Oh, I most certainly have.
There will be a ton of people in there that you will be like, holy shit, didn't know they were still had. There will be people that aren't even alive anymore that you'll be like, oh, they're still going to be in a movie that's going to come out.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
So go look it up. It's awesome. But anyway, I became friends with that guy because we put the Villains. He wanted to put a Villain song in the movie, and I kind of went out there and did like a little tiny role in it and saw him make a movie, and I was like, I want to make a movie. So my friend Rob and I said, let's write a script for a movie. Never made a movie before.
I love this.
Didn't know anything about it.
I love hearing stories like this. Yeah.
And we also were like, we're not even going to learn how to make a movie. But the thing we knew we could do was write a cool story.
Yeah.
And that was all we cared about. We wanted to write a cool story.
Give us a synopsis for Portfolio.
Portfolio is about a boy that gets abandoned by his parents when he's very young.
Yeah.
And he lives out in the middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
And no one knows that they've left him. And then he becomes an adult. and he has trouble filling in with adult society.
Okay.
So he maybe has like some tics or whatever, but he tries to blend in with society and has problems doing that. So he takes care of it the way that he seems fit.
Oh, okay.
So
That's a good setup. That's a good setup.
It's very much a horror comedy, which is one of my favorite genres.
It's a hard genre to do. It's a hard genre to do. Not easy.
And I think even when we started writing it, we probably were going to make a horror movie, but we realized with our limitations of doing things that we'd be better off making a horror comedy. So we did shift gears a little bit, but on purpose, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Another completely story, but The Room, you know, like how
The Room.
How that kind of ended up being a different thing that it was supposed to be. But we kind of realized that before that and changed it to the thing that we thought it should be.
That's, you know, we need more pragmatic thinking like that in the world. I think it would, and I guess you had a comedian playing the lead, says Rob.
Did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Cool.
So, but anyway, you know, it's like, we didn't know how to make a movie, but we knew how to write a story. So we wrote a story and we filmed it ourselves with a $100 camera. I think we probably spent $500 to make our movie. Would be
wow.
And it's pretty much I think it's 90 or 70 minutes maybe. I don't know. But it's
a 35-minute chunk and I think a 36-minute chunk. So it's about. Which, you know, I mean, listen, good. I got to tell you, it's really nice. I like features that are not, you know, a feature that comes in at 70, 75, 80 minutes. That's nice. I don't got, time is precious, man. So if you can tell a story in that kind of time frame, not to say that I don't mind kicking back and throwing on Lord of the Rings once in a while. You just want to escape and do that too. There's a time and place for both those lengths.
But anyway, it's really cool. I guess we put that out in 2010, and it was kind of one of those things. Like I never was like I want to make movies, but I think like the idea of making a movie,
you wanted the experience.
It was like a bucket list thing, and I was like, I'm gonna make a movie. So I did. You're
a Renaissance man.
And we didn't just like make like this little quick 5-minute video. We made like a full thing.
You made a feature length film.
As our first thing ever, and we put it out, and I've watched it somewhat recently, and you know, is there things I'd change about it? Yes. Is there things that would automatically change about it if we did it now? Yes. But when you go back 10 years and look at something you did 10 years ago,
it's like a time machine. It's wonderful.
But a lot of times you're very not proud of it, and I watch what we did, and I'm very proud of it.
That's cool, man.
And I love it, and I feel like if people watched it, they'd be like, "That's pretty cool."
That's awesome.
I'm not sure how to find it on the internet, but I know
you sent it to me. No, I have it. But
I'm saying for if other people wanted to check it out, like I think maybe if you like go,
I'll put it in the description. We'll link it at the bottom.
If you go to YouTube and put portfolio and maybe like Joshua Grove or Josh Grove, maybe you can
portfolio
find it,
part 1 and portfolio part 2. I think.
Yeah, I know it's hard to find, but it is on there and it's really cool. So
that is really cool, man.
Watch it. I like it. I still like it now.
You gotta stitch them. You gotta stitch them together and then put it on. Put it as one long thing.
Well, it is weird though. So I figure if someone watches part 1, then they can at least abandon part 2 if they don't like it.
Right. So give it a trial. A trial period.
Yeah. A half hour is a lot easier to give up than an hour.
This is true. We just talked about time being a premium.
I think anyone that makes it through 30 minutes will want to see the other half because that's the thing. It's not bad. It's just for a certain person.
If you're going to spend 30 minutes watching something, you're probably going to like see how it ends. I don't know. I'm weird like that, man. I used to sit through every single thing, and like I don't know, in the last 2 or 3 years, you know what it really started? It really started when streaming became like the main thing. It's just like it's just so much easier to like back in the video rental days. It's like, I paid whatever $2, $3, $4, $5. I was like, I'm gonna watch this because I spent good money on this. I don't, but now but now it's like, you start a movie and then the phone rings and you're only 20 minutes in, and then you don't even bother going back and picking it up. You're just like, I don't care. Life's too short. There's so much to stream,
Which is good in some ways, but in some there's definitely stuff that I used to check out that even on the first watch you didn't like it.
Right.
And then, well, you know what? The 95 Misfits album is a great example. I bought that CD right when it first came out. Like the day it came out, I went and bought it because I had heard the old Misfits and I liked it.
Right.
And I went and bought that and I put it on, and like I don't even think I listened to it like for real. I kind of put it on and I was like, this sounds like metal, and I shut it off and I put it in my
It
CD
does
rack.
sound like metal, dude. It does, and it's different. It's a different band. Look, I like
It sounds
American
like metal
Psycho.
compared to the other stuff. For
Yeah.
sure.
If you're used to Glenn Danzig Misfits, and then you listen to this metal sounding with a different singer, it's not going to be palatable, or you might go, what? And that's the problem. It's brand confusion. It's like, I'm expecting Misfits. I don't get Misfits. It's like you expect a certain quality of something, like, riotstickers.com. You expect a certain quality when you're going to print a sticker and get it put on the thing. You come to expect it. So it's like, it's the same thing with, music when two bands share the name, or one band kind of like continues with a new lineup and uses the same name. That's why, in general, I think there are very few examples that actually pull it off. I think Black Sabbath with Dio pulls it off. I think that really feels like a continuation of Black Sabbath to me. I think the Ramones pulled it off, but they had Dee Dee, who was still writing songs for them, even though he was out of the band. There are some bands and there are other bands that just have a lot of integrity, like Joy Division, who friggin' their lead singer, ends himself, and then they go, okay, well, we can't be Joy Division anymore. We got to call ourselves New Order, and continue on making music, but just not using the name that was the different entity. So I like, I get that. I really, really sort of get that. And then you look at like, I think that you need to have like an element that brings continuity. A great example, if a band retains its lead singer frontman, who also happens to be a songwriter or a founding member, then that band is probably going to continue on without anybody blinking an eye.
Right.
If you replace the singer-songwriter frontman like the Misfits did, people are going to be like, what the F is this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Same thing happened with TSOL. People were like, whoa, like, where's Jack Grisham? They got this other guy now. It was just a confusion. So it's subjective. Some bands pull it off. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, they nobody blinks an eye because Anthony Kiedis is still there. If Anthony Kiedis wasn't there, it's the second Red Hot Chili Peppers reference we've made in this episode. I don't know why. But and then you have a band like the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia dies. They're like, we can't be the Grateful Dead anymore. The Grateful Dead don't exist. It's like, wait a minute. There's 7 members of the Grateful Dead. You're telling me one guy, the lead guitar player, he's not even what's funny? Jerry Garcia didn't even sing half the time. He's not even the singer of the fucking band. They still retired the band because of how integral he was as the band leader, of the band.
So do you think that's the right thing to do?
I think the Grateful Dead could have limped on as the Grateful Dead without Jerry Garcia. Although, and that's just goes to show you how untrue of a fan I am, because any real fan would be like, what, are you freaking crazy? But like, look at, Neon Knees, also from New Zealand. He says no Lemmy equals no Motorhead. Of course, you could never. There's an example of a band can't do Motorhead without Lemmy. The Doors, Jim Morrison dies. You can't do the Doors. They tried. They did 2 Jim Morrison-less Doors albums after he died. They tried to get Iggy Pop, as a matter of fact, to replace Jim Morrison, which actually would have been kind of cool to see. I've changed my mind. James, thank you, James. James says Trafalgar, Christ the Conqueror. Trafalgar, Christ the Conqueror on the barn. That's that weird name that I can't pronounce.
Yeah, that's the James and I
The
went out
movie.
to do some stuff with the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So that's how you spell it.
mhm.
Thank you for the support, James. But yeah, I'm like, if there are, I think that all things considered, I think that the Grateful Dead, if they really wanted to continue on without Jerry Garcia, they could have done it. They didn't even, like I said, he wasn't the main lead singer. But could the Beatles have continued to be would the Beatles have continued on without any of the Beatles? Like, if Ringo Starr had died and not John Lennon, I think the Beatles still might have reunited and played shows.
For sure.
Even though they say
100%.
no, it's one for all for one, and I think that's true to an extent. But they were the Beatles before they had Ringo, and therefore, with Ringo dead and gone, they might try and still become the Beatles afterwards. You can't be the Beatles without John Lennon. You can't be the Beatles without Paul McCartney, or frankly, I think even George Harrison. So it's like, it's just this real interesting sort of, you have to have the right concoction in order to continue on as the same band. If you don't, people are going to give you shit for it. That's the ultimate truth, I think.
Yeah.
So,
But going back to the Misfits one, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, I got that 95 one. I put it on, turned it off right away. Didn't like it. Put it on the shelf. And I don't know. Like,
how long did it take before you put it back on?
So that came out in 95.
Yeah.
At least 2 years. That sat collecting dust on my shelf. And I never even put it on.
That's amazing.
And the weird thing about it is, like, I did listen to it a little bit, and I didn't really like it, but it was one of those weird things. I didn't even hear it anywhere else. I kind of, like, remembered what I heard, and 2 years later, I was like, that actually was, I liked that, like, now. Like,
right.
I remembered what I heard then, and I was like, I want to re-listen to that, because I think now I will like it.
Right.
So I don't know what the thing was with it, but I will say, I put it in, and that was good, and everything you just said, where it's like, you can replace it. It's a lot easier to replace drummers and musician players because a voice is the most unique thing.
Right.
Guitar players can be unique, but at least if you're looking at like stuff that's already written.
Well, Van Halen, you could never replace Eddie Van Halen. Like, that would be sacrosanct. Even if you had Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth, it'd be impossible.
I'm not saying that anyone would want to see you do it. But,
Right.
But someone can play those things that he recorded. There's someone out there that can play.
That is true.
But they're not going to write things like that. That's the thing. And that's where that's why you can replace instrument players, because they can go back and listen to what's been recorded and copy it. But then if you want to make new shit, then you're screwed, because that guy can't do what that other guy did.
Right.
The singer is different. So the fact that the Misfits did with that 95 stuff, that they did get people to catch on and like it, that's a tall order to fill.
It is.
Hard.
It is. I will concur with that. And again, I've said my all sorts of things about those guys and whatnot, but you want to know what? At the end of the day, I am still a big fan of American Psycho, and I like most of the songs on Famous Monsters. I never stopped. And it's true, you have to admire what Jerry and Doyle and the rest of the guys did, and the fact that they very much rode a wave of popularity. Look, it's not like they were starting from zero, okay? They had the name The Misfits, but they absolutely sustained that popularity. Like, there was never a time where, like, nobody was showing up to see the 95 Misfits. Like, they were doing very well on the road. They were doing very well. So it's like, it is a testament to what they were doing. It just sucks that they used the name.
I think people would have came out on that original tour no matter what, even if the songs were bad. But the fact that people kept going after that
exactly, dude.
That those were good songs, and they were recorded well, and every other aspect of it, And I mean, all the, like, what Michael wrote.
You're right.
And even what Chud wrote. Like, Chud wrote some cool stuff for that stuff. And those are good songs.
Listen, the songs. No
matter anything you want. Those are good songs.
I agree. I like Speak of the Devil. I like Hate the Living, Love the Dead. I like, whatchamacallit, What else did Chud write that I really liked? I mean, I liked all those. I really did. I liked all those songs. I still do. And I've listened to them in the last 2-ish years. I've absolutely, when those songs have come on, I have just fully enjoyed them, but I've compartmentalized what they are.
Right. Well, it's harder to like someone when you don't like aspects of who made it or whatever the case may be.
Well,
So
I don't
that
even
does
mean
change
that.
it, but-
I don't even mean that. I'm just talking about like recently I've sort of like have come to a new understanding of like what the 95 Misfits are, because I've been doing like a lot of like reading and stuff and like sort of like deep dives, and I've kind of come to this realization that the 95 Misfits are almost secretly Christ the Conqueror using the Misfits name. Like that's what that band and that music, a lot of that music was cannibalized. Some of it was cannibalized from that Christ the Conqueror music. And that's why it sounds more metal. And then Chud becomes the drummer of Christ the Conqueror. And then they get Michael as the singer. And then they start calling themselves the Misfits. So if you think about them as a metal, it's kind of interesting. If you think about it, it's so funny that you use the word metal like right off the bat, because that's kind of what they are doing in the 90s.
But
there's a punk attitude. There's a punk
right,
attitude.
But if you compare anything that's like punk now, like punk rock genre music now compared to stuff back then, I mean, it does have it's heavier, it's louder, it's so it makes sense that that's what they did with it to kind of like try to update it and make it current.
Yeah, for sure. And
So.
I would be more than happy to see, if I was old enough at the time, capable, whatever you want to call it, to see the new Misfits when they were, kicking around back then. I definitely would have done it. It would have been a really, really great time. Would have been a great show.
It was amazing. I'll have to send it to you, but I saw them play like in the late 90s, and
that's awesome.
I remember I came home from that show, and I was still doing like my first band, and I wrote a song that night.
Yeah.
And I'll send it to you, and you'll be like, yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense that you were at that show and then you wrote that. Like it's
it's funny how that stuff bleeds into your subconscious and then creatively sort of it does its little thing. It inspires to sort of create. But it's, I 100% agree with you. We do have to give, and we break a lot of balls on this channel about some of those guys, but like I do have to give credit where credit is due in terms of sustaining a fan base over a period of 5 years. And, again, if you talk to anybody in the Danzig camp, they'll just straight up say, oh, well, because they had the name the Misfits. But like, I mean, come on, that only gets you so far. You do have to have music that is enjoyable to keep the engine going. It's not like they were playing only Danzig songs. They were mixing it up. They were doing all sorts of stuff. So, there's that.
Yeah.
There's that. Yeah. See, James says it right here. James Gruesome says Dr. Fives was straight up
sure.
Christ the Conqueror reused. So, I mean, there you go. And those guys too, when they're writing their songs, they're not like Glenn, who's like writing these like really interesting, like introspective, beat poetry, commentaries about the underbelly of Americana. They're like, okay, Mars attacks. We've got to write a song about Martians attacking, or like, you know what I mean? They're oh, okay, let's do Lost in Space, about the movie Lost in Space. It's like that. Like they're just, it's what you see is what you get. Like the song title is what the movie is about. And the Misfits have done the original. We have Return of the Fly and Horror Hotel and stuff, but not to the extent that the new Misfits were kind of copping to that.
For sure. For sure. And if they would have started out that way, it would have been much more of a problem. But once they did that, everything that they had built up, it was like at least sort of okay to just do that.
Joe says, look at the top 5 Misfits song on Spotify, and it's probably going to have like Dig Up Her Bones or something. But you know what my counter to that is? That is the fault of brand confusion, man. It's just friggin' brand confusion. You have people are listening to or coming there for the Misfits, and they're getting a mixed bag. I don't think it's fair to use Spotify as an example. And yes, as Jerry only says, for the kids.
Well, and this isn't any news, and I might not even be right, but I think at this point Jerry's been the lead singer longer than anyone, right?
If you consider, if yes, on a technical level, if you consider it an unbroken chain, then I'm going to Spotify right now to see what the top 5.
But then who? So then, who's the lead singer that's been in the band where the most songs were written? Glenn.
Glenn, I would say Glenn. Course. There are 54 original Misfits songs, all written by Glenn. So there's like maybe there's 30.
So what's more important to you, songs or time? You know what I mean? Like
time means nothing.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like that's the big,
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can share. I don't think this is going to work. Let me see if I can share my Spotify player. That would be really cool. Hold on. We're gonna land the airplane. It's funny. I told Josh, I was like, yeah, Josh will probably do 90 minutes, and of course we blink our eyes and it's 2 hours because that's just how we roll. That's just how it works here. Let's see if this will share. Nope, not gonna let me. Stupid melon. Whatchamacallit. All right, hold on. I'm going to the Misfits right now. Let's play a little game. Josh, what do you think the top 5 Misfits songs are on Spotify? Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Dig Up Our Bones has to be one.
Okay, you're saying Dig Up Our Bones. I haven't even looked yet. I'm just looking through these comments. I see Joe says it's very fair, actually.
It's what?
Joe says it's very fair. He's talking about what's on Spotify, I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
So you're saying Dig Up Her Bones? So I'm looking up now.
Halloween.
Okay.
I would think Halloween's probably one of the most high-rated ones on Spotify for old ones.
All right, let's do top 10 because I see 10 songs here, and I'm actually kind of surprised.
Yeah, I don't even want to guess then.
No. Do it. Come on. This is fun. Guess.
Well, Dig Up Her Bones is on there, right?
Yes, Dig Up Her Bones is number 6.
Crying on Saturday Night's on there.
Saturday Night is number 2.
Okay. Halloween.
It is. No, Halloween is not there.
Wow.
What do you think the number 1 song is? This is kind of actually. Whoa, these are not. It says number 1, but it shows they're actually out of order. There's more plays for different ones. Okay, but. Wow. Dig Up Her Bones is up there though. Dig Up Her Bones has 29 million plays. 29.
So is that the most?
No.
Really?
Nope.
Does Saturday Night have more?
Saturday Night is at 27, so it has about 5 million less. Yep.
Hybrid Moments.
Hybrid Moments is on there and beats out both of them with 33 million.
It's one of my favorites, so there's some. I'm shocked.
Love me some Hybrid Moments, of course.
Man, I'm trying to think of what would be higher than like I thought those would be the top 3 though.
You want me to just go through them for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I love how everybody calls David Lee Rath.
Skulls.
Who's relative. They call him
Die will be on there because of the Metallica thing.
Nope. Die is not on there. All right,
really?
Ready? I'm just going to go through. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through. This is by ranking, but I'm going to go through the number 1 song. All right, let's just try and do this in order. Number 1 song
Monkey
with the
Paw.
most plays. Yeah, of course, Monkey's Paw. No, it's Last Caress. Last Caress has 53 million. Okay,
yeah,
that's number 1.
That's
at number 1. Number 2, it seems, is Hybrid Moments at 33 million. Right.
Right. Yep.
Number 3, at 31 million plays, is Where Eagles Dare. Okay.
Really?
Yep.
I love that song, but I'm shocked.
I love it too. Number 4, number 4 is Dig Up Her Bones with 29 million. But again, this is what annoys me. These are 2 separate bands. Like that kind of sucks to me. Like you can't. How can you mingle these songs in the top 10? It doesn't work that way for me. That's where I get off the train and go, no, that's ridiculous. Like it needs to be in its own separate thing. You can't. it's comparing two different things.
You know, it's weird because I feel that way with other bands that made like as big of a switch as that. But for some weird reason with that band, it doesn't bother me.
That's interesting. Do you, off the top of your head, what are those other bands that that doesn't bother you? I'm just curious to know.
That it does bother me.
No, oh yeah, where it does bother you. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but I think almost anything else though. Gotcha. I can't think of another band where I don't care as much as that band. Like, it's weird. I'm just kind of I am able to like group it together somehow and make it okay.
So next after that we have Saturday Night at 27 million. So we went from 29 million to 27 million.
Vivid Red.
Yeah, Vivid Red, right? And then after that we have tied for 19 million. We have Scream and Helena.
Jesus.
I know, this is so bizarre. And then after that, you have, I'm trying to go in order here, but it's not easy. After that, you have both tied for 11 million. You have, well, Skull's closer to 12 million. You have Skulls and you have London Dungeon. And then the song with the least amount in the top 10 is Astro Zombies at 5 million. And that's just kind of crazy to me, I guess. I mean,
but it's actually not bad, I think.
It's not so bad. I mean, look, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just 4, but and three of them are Famous Monsters. So in the top 10,
yeah.
3 songs, sure. three of them are Famous Monsters, and each one on Famous Monsters has just if you round it up a little bit, they're all at above 20 million. So 67 million-ish, 68 million-ish plays just from Famous Monsters alone.
Yeah.
And then you have one from Dig Up Her Bones at 29 million, which is about half of those 3 songs.
Yeah, I mean, Dig Up Her Bones and Saturday Night should be on there maybe, but then after that it should be.
But you know what's funny? Last Caress alone, without any of the other songs, if we just said something like 68 million, Last Caress is 53 million by itself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't know. I agree, Neon Knees. I don't know how it beats Astro Zombies. Astro Zombies, if I'm going to show someone a Misfits for the first time, like, who are the Misfits? I'm going to play the Astro Zombies. That's what I'm going to introduce you, or Last Caress, or Night of Living Dead. That's how I'm going to introduce you to the band.
You know, that's an interesting thing, too, because I agree with you. That would be a great song. Because it
encompasses everything, right?
Those two things aren't the same. Like, you're right. If I had to give someone a song to show them the Misfits, it wouldn't be the same song that's necessarily my favorite Misfits song. It'd be a different song. And when I had you play the Villains earlier,
yeah,
it's kind of the same way. I don't think that was our best song, but I think that's like a good one to let someone hear.
Right. That represents their sound. That represents their sound.
Those are different answers for sure.
Yeah.
Your best song isn't necessarily the one that you'd want someone to hear first.
Right. Especially because if you develop a relationship with the band and you listen to them and you have certain quirks and tastes about the band. I like this guy's name. He calls himself Shaky Balls with a Z. Shaky Balls says Astro Zombies and Night of the Living Dead. I mean, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Rob makes a good point. He says that's Metallica fans wanting to compare Last Caress to the original, which you're probably right. And then hold on a second. Let's see. Hold on. We got to check one last thing. Where do Metallica songs rank on Spotify? I feel like Joe Vasta loves just looking at stuff on Spotify, like ranking all the different stuff. I suppose I would too if I was a musician. That's what I would be looking at. Let's see where Metallica compares in the rankings, and then we're gonna wrap this up because we'll never stop. We've gotten into Misfits territory. It's never gonna stop now. Okay, so here we are at Metallica. Wow. Okay, that's fucking bananas. Holy shit. All right, so let me ask you a question. we just talked about like where the Misfits stand. This just gives you an example. Like, we think the Misfits are so mainstream. Like, you think they're pretty mainstream at this point, right? Like, I mean, they're big. Like, people know who the Misfits are. People know the Skull and everything. But then you look at Metallica's plays.
So what you said, Last Caress had how the Misfits Last Caress had how many listens?
53 million, and that's the most, right?
Right.
Now,
so Last Caress by Metallica.
Well, I didn't check that. Hold on. I'm curious to see. I don't know if it only shows you the plays for the top 10 or if it'll show you. Oh, no, it'll show you for every single song.
I mean, I think crazy. If the Misfits had 50 million on it, they must have like 250 million.
So,
and I might be way off, but I would think at least that amount.
All right. So just in general, for Misfits, for Metallica in general, right? You're absolutely right. They have billions of listens for sure. When you add them all up, their most listened to song is Enter Sandman. And that's almost at 1 billion plays. It's 772.5 million plays.
How many?
772.
So I think Last Caress is going to have around 250 million.
Okay, that's what you're predicting. Let's go check that out. I'm going to
which would be 5 times more than the Misfits.
Oh yeah. All right, you're saying 250. I'm gonna give them a little more credit than that. I'm gonna say no, it would be up there. We would have seen it. I'm gonna say 400. It has to be somewhere. I'm gonna just to be different from you. I'm gonna say 275.
Okay.
Just for the sake of it, doing something different. Metallica. This is a fun game. I know.
Yeah, it is.
Metallica Last Caress. Let's see what we have. So it would be Last Caress / Green Hell, because that's what when they did their cover, it combines those two. And wow. Okay. What did you say?
250 million, which would be 5 times the amount of the Misfits version.
And question, everybody. There is Last Caress is only on Garage Inc., or was it? It was also on the 598 EP, right? Something like that. When did Last Caress first appear?
I'm not the person to ask.
Damn. Okay, this might be a problem here because. Okay, let's see what this one. This is Okay, this is very interesting because. First, we need to go to Metallica 598 EP, I think, because the Garage Inc. version. All right, so you know what the Garage Inc. version is? I'll just tell you right off the bat. Garage Inc. is I lost it. Hold on.
Someone said it's on 598 EP.
Right. Thank you. That's what we want to look at as well, because that's how people first really heard it. Metallica Last Caress. Here we go on Garage Inc. is only 9,542,000.
Wow.
Which absolutely debunks who said Rob said they wanted to compare. That's not the case at all. Yeah. But it's interesting. Here's what's interesting. Metallica has hundreds of millions of listens more than any of the Misfits songs, and yet the Misfits version is listened to almost 5 times more. Yeah, even though Metallica is the band that people sort of first discover the Misfits.
Credit them with putting it out there, yeah.
Right. So that's really interesting. And then one last thing we have to take a look at, because that's what we do here. We just fucking nerd out about this shit. Does not matter at all. Let's go to the 598 EP and see how much. Now, mind you, remember this too. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, it's also here. It's the same track. It's 9.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
That is really that is fascinating. That is fascinating. So that just goes to show that even though the Misfits are not as well known, their version of Last Caress is way more listened to on Spotify than it's the most listened to Misfits song on Spotify, period. So
wow.
There you go, guys. That's our show for this evening. I really want to thank Josh so much for coming on. Love talking to you, Josh. You definitely have to come back sometime. Next time we're judging a Devil Lock contest or something, we'll have you on to rate Devil Locks. Yeah, I've been talking about doing a Devil Lock 2 contest in the back of my mind, the little committee in the back of my mind. So we're gonna definitely we'll have to get that fired up. I'm glad the Snooch liked this stream, guys. Once again, just because Riot Stickers is the sponsor and Josh is our guest, we just want to remind you that for all your sticker needs, if you do need stickers, definitely check out, just test it out. 50% off. Frumess is the promo code. Link is down there in the description. Freaking we are all about championing independent artists here, and this is a great deal for independent artists who don't want to deal with, the nonsense of everybody else. David DLW, as everybody calls him in the chat. Glenn said Cliff Burton drunkenly phoned him for the lyrics to Last Caress. Hetfield said Glenn probably gave him the wrong lyrics to Green Hell. Glenn is undecipherable even for metal gods like them. True.
That's funny.
True that. We already played that video, so what we're going to do is hang out for 1 second, Josh.
Hey, man. Yeah, can I say something real
quick?
quick?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for everything you do. Like, what you do is awesome, man. And, all these bands out here that put out awesome music in the world that we live in, like, you're doing the same thing in your own way, and you're an artist, and you're awesome.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. And smegma.
Awesome.
Rob says smegma. So I don't know why he's saying smegma. Joe is saying that we're leaving out a few hundred published live versions Metallica's put out. Last Caress has been a staple in their set since '87, but it still pales in listening numbers compared to whatchamacallit. Javis Bickle loved the stream as well. Sharpie says, I'm sure I'll be in touch with you in the near future. Can't pass up that sticker deal. That's great news. Droid has a band, so we'll hope you guys get in contact. James says, I'm a cave dweller.
That's a Villian. That's a Villian song.
That's a Villian song right there. So I think what we're going to do then is, for James, this is dedicated to James. We're going to play the show out with that song. I think that's what we're going to have to do. I have to find it first now. It's here.
Whenever we'd play that, I had an awesome chorus for it, and we would, especially when we did hometown shows, we'd get everyone that we knew, all of our friends and stuff, to come up and sing it with me, and I'd pull James on stage and throw him a microphone and get him to sing with us. It was awesome.
That's great. I'm going to see if I could find it here. It's got to be here somewhere. By the way, guys, if you want to check out any more of the Villians, I'm going to put this in the chat real quick. This is the YouTube page. You can go and listen to all the music. It's all up for your listening pleasure. If we could just find Cave Dweller. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up with this find real quick. Cave. Yep. Here it be. Here it lie. Somewhere. Why is it giving me such a problem? I don't know. It's being a little difficult. Here we go. All right, we're going to sync this up for you real quick. Guys, thank you so much. Such a great, this was a great stream. And you, like I said, you'll be hearing a lot more about Riot stickers just over, we have this trial sponsorship going on, so it'll be out there for some time. And now you know the face behind the operation that I'm speaking of. Hold on, real quick. We're gonna play it out with this right now. This is dedicated to James Gruesome. Thank you so much for all your support. Here we go. Press and play.
There it is.
Whoops. Now press and play.
Cave Dweller, take one, rolling.
That's it.
Seems like only yesterday we walked here in your
I like this one. Ooh.
No, you're not gonna get that.
No, that was I like that one a lot. That's
Awesome.
great. That was great. All right, we have a wonderful way of saying goodbye on the show. We say peace and hair grease, and we will see you tomorrow night with another episode of the Frumess channel, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be doing Misfits tomorrow night. I got a special surprise or two up the sleeve, and so we're going to say peace and hair grease. Hang on 1 second, Josh, as we say goodbye to everybody. Boo!